Samuel Huntington first published an article called The Clash of Civilizations in the Journal of Foreign Affairs in 1993. It incited more debate than any piece of writing that has been seen since George Kennan's X article in the 1940s. In response, Huntington has now expanded his treatise into a book, The Clash of Civilizations and the Remaking of World Order. He asserts that in the coming decades, the world will divide not along political lines, but cultural lines. The thriving Muslim and East Asian societies will challenge Western dominance, and the United States, used to being a world leader, will need to reevaluate its policies on foreign intervention and domestic immigration in order to remain a major player. I am pleased to have the author of these provocative ideas on this broadcast this evening, because as many people who watch this show know, many people are suggesting that over the next 4 years there will be important tests of how the world is shaping up as we enter the next millennium, and as this administration looks for its own effort to leave its impact, may very well find that in the foreign policy arena. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
I want to just explore this through your words, the ideas that you set forth. Tell me what you are saying here and how the world is now different after the Cold War, and what forces are at work, and what all we recognize, and what the United States has to do.
Well, that might require quite a long speech, but during the Cold War, as we know, the world was divided into three parts, basically. The free world led by the United States, the communist bloc led by the Soviet Union, and the more or less non-aligned third world, where much of the conflict between the other two worlds took place. That pattern of history has disappeared. And the big question is what will be the patterns of association and of conflict among nations in the post-Cold War world. And if one looks at the evidence, it seems to me that it is overwhelming that nations are going to be aligning themselves along cultural lines, that those countries with similar cultures are coming together. Those countries which historically have been culturally different are often coming apart. We've seen the breakup of both the Soviet Union and Yugoslavia along cultural lines, basically. And the lines of conflict will, in this post-Cold War world, will basically fall along the fault lines between the world's biggest cultural entities, which are civilizations.
Okay, name those for me.
Okay, the civilizations are, first of all, obviously the West, consisting of North America and Western Europe primarily, Islam as a civilization, Orthodox civilization, of which Russia is the leading state, of course, Chinese or Sinic civilization, Hindu civilization, in which India is the major state. Most people would classify Japan as a separate civilization all by itself. And then I would also add Latin America and Africa.
You would add those. It's about 7 or 8, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
All right. So the United States, the argument is made,
yes,
best recognize this in its own interest. That's first. That this is the way the new world is shaping up.
This is the way in which it seems to be shaping.
Whatever we said about a new world order,
it
hasn't evolved the way we thought it might be.
Well, certainly the euphoria which existed in 1989 after the Berlin Wall came down has disappeared, and I think there were great hopes at that time that we were entering a new world order, that this is going to be a world in which Western ideas of liberal democracy and capitalism would sweep across the world, and that a new era of harmony would emerge. Well, that hasn't happened. And history hasn't ended. It's in many respects been renewed in a very dramatic and often rather brutal fashion.
You're using another author's notion.
Oh,
it
that's
is
right.
that Fukuyama said that history had ended because the West had won the great battle.
That's right.
And there was
the ideological battle.
The ideological battle, and there was nothing else to do. Therefore, history was over.
Basically, that was what Frank Fukuyama was saying. Yeah.
And he, in reviewing your book in the Wall Street Journal, took issue with, obviously, I mean, there is a great...
That's right.
You say also the United States has to wake up in the next millennium and do several things. One, make partnership with Europe.
Yes.
2, limit immigration. Limit
yes,
immigration.
limit, not
legal
stop.
immigration.
Yes.
Restrict.
Well, reduce immigration for a period of time. I would very much support the recommendations of the Commission on Immigration that reported a couple of years ago that was chaired by the late Barbara Jordan, who urged a reduction in legal immigration from something over 800,000 down to something like 500 or 600,000. It seems to me we've had so many immigrants coming into this country since the laws were changed in 1965 that we've arrived at a point where we should pause and concentrate upon assimilating these millions of new immigrants who have come in.